Hi, welcome back. Today we are talking about Kosas Revealer Foundation. Now, I know this has been out for a few weeks, but you know me, I'm never the first person to post a review. I really like to wear foundations for a while before I decide my final opinion on them. So I actually purchased this without even reading anything about it. Kosas is just a brand that I tend to really enjoy. I love the Revealer concealer, but just to give you a little bit of background, if you haven't read up on the foundation, basically it is a clean formula. It's marketed as a clean. I know a lot of you don't like that term. I'm just reading the About Me section on her, okay? So a clean, skin improving, medium coverage, SPF 25 foundation, and a treatment with hyaluronic acid, peptides, squalane, vitamin B3, and caffeine, and a couple other things in there. Coverage is supposed to be medium, finish is natural. A skin reviving SPF treatment foundation instantly blends like a second skin with a natural dreamy finish to blur visibly smooth texture and minimize pores. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. I have been wearing it for probably over 2 weeks now, and the shade, we'll just start out with the shade that I purchased. I went with a cool tone with Kosas because all of my Kosas complexion products run on the yellow side. So I just went out on a limb and I saw the preview of this shade, which is 120 Very Light Cool. And the model just didn't really appear to have a lot of pink in her skin to begin with. And the foundation looked pretty neutral. So I was like, you know what? We're going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to try a cool tone foundation because I have a feeling it's probably just going to run on the neutral side with Kosas. I think my suspicions were confirmed because this shade, in fact, does match me really well. I don't find that it looks super pink. It's actually very neutral on my skin. A lot of people ask me, what's your undertone? It's even at Sephora one time, someone was trying to match me and they were like, I just can't figure out what your undertone is. I tend to just stick with neutral. But I do feel like I am a chameleon in the sense that I could get away with a cool tone or also a yellow tone. So back to this, I got Very Light Cool 120, and it's supposed to be for very light skin with pink undertones. Again, I don't consider myself to have pink undertones, but this foundation shade matched me really well. So if you've been struggling with Kosas, possibly running a little too yellow on you, definitely might want to go this route. So I first want to talk about texture on this foundation because I do find that it has an interesting texture to it. It's really hard for me to describe accurately. There's no words to describe how I feel the texture of this is. I feel like it's a bunch of different textures in one formula. So when you pump this out, you're going to notice that it seems like a pretty traditional foundation formula. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, just kind of somewhere in between. Now, when I started applying this on my skin, I was gritting my teeth. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way this texture is blending on my face. And it was really interesting because I felt like it definitely had a little bit of a drag to it, and I still feel that way. Almost like when you're blending out a foundation and it's just not compatible with, let's say, like the brush that you're using. That's almost how I felt when I was using this product. Now, I have only used it with a brush and my hands. And so when I was using a brush with it, I almost felt like it was dragging a little bit, and I was so afraid that it was going to cause streaking. But as I blended it out, it really didn't. So that's where I'm talking about the texture on this is there's almost like this underlayer of a moisture, like a moisture property to it. I don't know. I feel like if you've tried this foundation and you've used it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like there's pigment, but then the base layer is like very moisturizing and hydrating, almost like it's a lotion, like you're blending a lotion in on your skin. I would definitely agree with the medium coverage claim. I'm wearing about a pump and a half on my face today. And I find that I actually enjoy setting this foundation with translucent powder, which I never do, but this foundation is very hydrating. It is very luminous. I honestly, when it says the finish is natural, that's something I feel like I'd have to disagree with. I feel like the finish is very luminous on the skin. And so I already talked a little bit about this on TikTok, and I said that it was almost what I was hoping the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin would be. And what I mean by that is that it has the dewiness, it has that ultra glowy look to it, it has the coverage, but it still sits really pretty on the skin. And I definitely feel that this foundation does mark all those boxes with a couple of exceptions, and I want to talk about those. So we know I always have to bring up Miss Eczema in my videos, and that my skin is always dry on my face to some extent. And I feel like this foundation doesn't look awful when I'm having a flare up and some dry patches, but it's probably not the first one I would reach for, if that makes sense. Because it does have a pretty decent amount of pigment. I always talk about this in videos and in regards to foundation texture. If you're struggling with dryness, patches, even just texture on the skin, foundations with a higher amount of pigment are always the best route to go, because pigment is in fact what gets caught in between, your fine lines, your dry patches, and enhances them. So I think because this does have quite a bit of pigment to it, you can definitely, there were some days where I went overboard and it definitely was picking up on those patches. But in the other sense, it's very hydrating. Like, it feels good on my skin. It feels really good on my dry skin. It's kind of confusing in that sense, I understand. But what I'm trying to get at is that if you do struggle with, dry patches on your face, either probably would stick to like a maximum of 1 pump of this for your coverage level, or you might want to sample it first and just see how it does with your skin type. Oily gals out there, I just don't think this one is it for you. I really don't. Like I said, I think it's hydration city. The texture of this foundation, the finish of this foundation, I just don't see people with excessive amounts of oil being happy with this. I feel like the oil could definitely very easily break down the product. You would have to set this pretty heavily. And like I said, I enjoy the way this looks when it's set down a little bit on my face with some powder, which is rare for me. I was talking about this on TikTok. Apparently I have reached somehow the ultimate makeup TikTok stardom. Keep in mind, I post on TikTok for fun. I feel like I'm an old fish in a pond with Gen Zs, basically, when I'm on TikTok. Somehow one of the most popular and most beloved makeup TikTokers, her name's Michaela Noguera. Of course, like, I'm out of the loop. But she has mentioned me or stitched me twice in her videos, and I was just in awe at like how beloved she is and how many people love her and trust her opinions. But she stitched me in regards to my Daniel Sandler watercolor videos, but I saw where she loves this foundation, and she talks about how she generally leans towards glowy and dewy formulas. And I told her in a comment, I was like, this foundation is the definition of Moisture City. It's so moisturizing on the face. So like most of my foundation reviews, I try to wrap things up as quickly as I can. And I want to bring you my final thoughts on this foundation. Personally, I am a fan. I have been enjoying wearing it. It's one of those that I think you do have to experiment with and see how it wears best on your skin. Like, generally, I would never, I'm wearing some Laura Mercier translucent powder all over my face, and it actually just looks so beautiful every day that I have worn it that way. I think you definitely need to be someone that's prepared to expect coverage. I think Kosas is misunderstood a lot for being, that clean, natural girl vibe. But in all reality, the Kosas face oil has a shocking amount of pigment to it. When I first tried it, I was not expecting that much pigment. Same thing goes for this. Immediate coverage. It's not one of those where you have to build it up. 2 pumps, and my sense of coverage is more diluted than a lot of people's, I realize, because I tend to lean more towards sheer products. But you can just see when you put it on, it immediately starts to cover, and not in a negative Nancy way, not in a way that enhances your pores. It does look very flattering. So I have been enjoying applying it my traditional way with my brush, and then to kind of set everything in place, I've just been taking a bit of like I said, my Laura Mercier translucent powder, and just kind of setting some areas so I'm not ultra glowy. And I did show a raw demo of just how it looked on my skin without powder, of course. The glowy foundations are trying to make a comeback, you know. This was definitely what, probably like 2014, 2015, the glow was in with foundations. And I talk about how now, being older, I need a balance. I don't want it to be too glowy, but I also don't want it to be too matte. So I like something that has more of a natural finish. Like I said, I think this does, in my opinion, fall a little bit more in the luminous category. So that's why I have been enjoying setting it a little bit more. Overall, solid. I think if you're a Kosas fan, you will probably be a fan of this. If you are someone that's into the clean foundation game, you will probably be into this as well. Versatile. You can do a nice sheer coverage by using half a pump with it. You can do, I think this could be built up to a full coverage, like 2.5, 3 pumps. Longevity wise, I have to say I'm impressed, because I wore this to an event for like 10 plus hours, and when I got home in the evening, I was really pleased at how my makeup looked. But also at the same time, I feel like a lot of the longevity came from me setting it with a little bit of translucent powder on the days that I've kind of just worn it in its raw state and kind of let it be free. I would say that the longevity was definitely a little less, but still pretty good. I mean, I've not worn this any days where at the end of the day I feel like it looks like garbage on my skin. So I think I touched on everything. Let me know if you have tried this. I'm interested to see what everyone's thoughts are, because like I said, this is what I was hoping for from Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin. Very luminous, good amount of coverage to it, but still looks beautiful on the skin. And for all of my beautiful skin stands out there, I'll have you know I'm giving it another shot. I reordered a lighter shade, and I'm interested to see if this theory that's kind of been like rumored that different shades have a different finish, I want to see if that's true, because I have seen that in so many comments, and I've actually had friends tell me you know, that their formula wasn't very glowy. So I have 4 neutral. I reordered 2 neutral. We will see how it goes. But back to Kosas. Honestly, solid. Proud of you, baby girl. I love Kosas as a brand, and I think this one is a nice, unique winner. Unless you have oily skin or possibly a lot of texture. Sample her first before you take the plunge. So I hope you enjoyed the review. If you have any questions for me, leave them down below, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye.